The quest for the Holy Grail begins in Chicago. Lovingly ripped off from the film classic Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Spamalot has everything you need for a great night at the theater. That's night with a K. From flying cows to killer rabbits, British royalty to French taunters, dancing girls, rubbery shrubbery, and of course, the Lady of the Lake. Hot off a critically acclaimed Broadway revival in 2023, Monty Python's Spamalot, the Tony Award-winning Best Musical, comes to the CIBC Theater May 19th through the 31st. Don't miss it. Get your tickets today at BroadwayInChicago.com. Today on CityCast Chicago, more long wait times at the Chicago Housing Authority, a neighborhood is trying to get a library branch, and we've got Plover eggs. It's Tuesday, May 19th. I'm Simona Licea in for Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I'm in the building today with creative producer Michelle Navarro. Michelle, how you doing today?
Hey, Simone, I am doing great because my White Sox won the Crosstown Classic.
Hey!
And so, you know, what is there to be sad about? Why be anything else but happy? It was an incredible game. And as a Southsider, I couldn't be happier than beating the Cubs at home.
You know, it's funny because in our newsletter today, I think there's nothing to be sad about right now when it comes to Chicago baseball, whether you're a Cubs fan or a Sox fan, even if you are a Cubs fan and you did lose to the Sox, like you've been on a winning streak at home. Like there's some, I don't know. It's a bright spot. I do feel like this weekend was like maybe the most platonically ideal Chicago weekend. Like on Saturday, I woke up and it was like surprisingly sunny and warm. And immediately a friend texted me and said, let's go to the beach. And I was like, yes, let's. That's like, I was thinking, everyone was thinking exactly the same thought at the same time, which was like, let's go to the lake.
I spent all Saturday like just walking around in the Loop, and I finally feel like, okay, actually the promise of summer is like, I could feel it. And so I love that you call it like that, like the most Chicago weekend. I feel like everybody was outside.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I know we got thunderstorms on Monday, but you know what? I'm ignoring them. The sun is coming. We're so close. I can taste it, Michelle.
Me too.
Let's get into some of the big stories. Sorry.
Huh?
Yeah, let's let him in. Let's see what's going on. What? A surprise appearance?
Jacoby was surprised.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know y'all was in the middle of y'all shit, but like, y'all saw my boys this weekend. Y'all see my boys this weekend. Oh my God, I was flexing all weekend. I can't believe we beat their ass. Come on now.
For the listening audience, Jacoby's off today, but I think as Michelle pointed to with the White Sox win in the Crosstown Classic, I suppose, making a surprise guest drop here.
Man, I just got back in the house, y'all. Shout out to Good Vacations. And I was like, I can wait till tomorrow, but I knew y'all was on, and I just had to come in and say, oh my God, I can't believe it. Because, come on, that 10-5 on Friday had me like, damn, it's going to be a long-ass weekend. Shoot, I'm glad I'm not there for it. And look at God. Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
Walk off. 2-run homer in the bottom of the 10th. And like, you could feel the pride. Like he came around just like, oh, we beat them. And the pitcher's face when he turned around just like, oh, August gonna be, I'm gonna be there in August. I'm gonna be up north in August for that one. But oh, Jesus Christ. I hope y'all doing good. Thank y'all for holding it down. Y'all are great. I'm sorry for throwing wherever y'all were in the conversation.
No, I was just about to introduce the first story, which is about CHA. So
okay. Yeah. All right. Well, no long waiting line for my reaction to the first round of the Classic. I hope this is a summer of just good baseball on both sides of the city, because the city is better for it. And yeah, man, I missed y'all. I hope y'all doing great, and I will see y'all tomorrow.
Bye, Jacoby. Everybody say bye.
Bye, Jacoby.
Bye, everybody.
See, I feel like Jacoby knew that he needed to prolong this upcoming story because we're going to talk about something that is deeply frustrating, and that is the Chicago Housing Authority long wait times to find units. Michelle, what specifically are we talking about? Because this isn't the long waiting list just to get into housing that we've talked about in the past. This is something very specific.
Right. When it comes to being waitlisted for housing, that's something that, large housing authorities see across the country. But in this particular report, the Sun-Times was looking at relocation requests over concerns that housing isn't safe or healthy. So there's nearly 400 households are on wait lists to move, and 150 of those requests are labeled as emergency by the CHA. Now, of those 400 households that are on that wait list for relocation, 241, so more than half, are for accommodating for residents that have disabilities. And so the Sun-Times talks to this resident, their name's Faith Hernandez, and they tell their story about how they requested a relocation request to leave an abuser. And so, of course, this is, a safety concern. And there was other things that they had, like they are someone that lives with disabilities. And so they need grab bars to be able to move around their space. They needed to be closer to a hospital where they can, get their services for their disabilities. And what happened was, because Faith was stuck in this wait list to be relocated, even though her situations were pretty dire, she had to wait and wait. She had to live farther from the hospital where she was getting services, and her health ended up worsening. And so this is just one specific story that, tells the stories of a lot of Chicagoans.
So to your point, these are people who have already managed to get a public housing unit, which, as we know, is already difficult. You can be on wait lists for years just to get on one of those units, only to have those units, whatever reason, need reasons to leave them. In the case of Faith, who needed to leave an abusive situation, that's certainly one thing. But I think some of the other reasons that people need to leave those units speak very much to kind of the overall condition of housing in CHA, which has to do with issues stemming from mold, fires, or essentially stuff that is physically wrong with the unit.
Yeah. So there's, like you mentioned, fires, infestations, mold. A really close friend of mine found out that she'd been living in an apartment with mold, and she was chronically ill for a year. And, she luckily had the resources and the time to, be able to relocate and find a new apartment. But, if you're already using affordable housing in the city, you're already in a position where you don't have the resources or the time to do that. And so, of the 400 requests, 103 of them, so a fourth of them, cite the Violence Against Women Act, and 24 of them are described as not habitable. We think back to in February, which I know we talked about this, where an employee filed a complaint accusing CHA that it was failing to follow its accommodations for people that have disabilities. And so when you think about someone living with disabilities, you have to think about buildings being up to code, elevators, ramps. You need floors that require no steps whatsoever. You need wider doorways. You need grab bars. You need proximity to services in hospitals. And so thinking about all the already limited amount of housing there is, and then bringing that down to a specific amount that can accommodate people with disabilities, it really makes it difficult for Chicagoans that have disabilities to rely on CHA for safe housing.
We've talked about the CHA so often and sort of the failures of the CHA. And it's so interesting because there's a part of me every time we cover this story that on some level I'm actually somewhat empathetic to the way reasons that bureaucracy takes so long to move, or the ways that people fall through the cracks, in the sense that, right, this is a big agency. They got to serve a lot of people. There's a lot of need that they have to serve. And they, on some level, trying to create that kind of system and fund that many units. It's a big task. It's a big endeavor. And I don't think it's for the faint of heart. However, when you start digging down into some of the stats, CHA has over 21,000 public housing units. And of those, 18%, that's about 4,000 apartments, are vacant, most of which because they are uninhabitable. They are not suitable to live in, right? And that, to me, for a public housing authority to have vacant units is just so egregious to me. And we've talked about the sort of failures to maintain the housing that they already possess and own, right? That they are already managing. And at the same time, I can't help but think about all of the drama at the top over who's leading the CHA, right? Like we are currently in the midst. I think there's right where the new CHA CEO just started. Keith Pettigrew comes to us from DC, but of course his appointment was rife with controversy, whereby there was this battle between Mayor Brandon Johnson and the head of the board, at which point Johnson tried to oust the head of the board. And then he was like, no, I'm not going. And there's a lawsuit over the Open Public Meetings Act. Like that appointment came after 17 months of not having a permanent head, right? And so like when you see that kind of drama, of course that kind of thing trickles down to the conditions of housing, how many units are available, and then of course the people who are left without a place to live in the end of the day.
It's a huge agency. Like it supports 65,000 households. And they have a yearly budget of 1.4 billion. When CHA responded to, why is there so many vacant buildings? Why does it take so long for people to be relocated into a safer, habitable space? They said that the vacant units are, like you mentioned, they're pending comprehensive rehabilitation. And it says that it's going to cost them tens of millions of dollars to do this work. But at the same time, it makes you so angry because you're just like, there's all this space that you guys have to give to people, and yet we're just letting it sit there.
Well, and then at the same time, so while this is happening in CHA, right, one of the city's sister agencies, the city of Chicago is poised to create something that is pretty unique, this affordable housing portal, sort of a pilot program. It's cleared a key city committee and is heading to the full council to a vote. Michelle, what exactly would this portal do?
Yeah, so this portal would have kind of like essential information for renters. It would have a record of housing. It would show wait lists, like wait times, and of course, property information, rental stuff that, is necessary to know, when you're trying to rent a space. So this is going to go to the full council body to vote on the ordinance May 20th. The ordinance has passed through the housing committee, and it's in collaboration with the city Department of Housing and the Illinois Housing Development Authority. And so they're looking to establish this as a 2-year pilot program. In the article by our friend Corley J for the Chicago Reader, they explained that the elders that are backing this saying, it's a shame that Chicagoans that are looking for safe, reliable housing are so used to all these wait times, being waitlisted for housing. And so they're hoping that this will give, more access and also more transparent look at the affordable housing that the city has to offer.
Yeah. And I think what's important to kind of note here is just, I think it may not be even immediately clear how many different things are available to people, right? So we were just talking about CHA, public housing, right? That is one avenue through which you might be able to acquire a subsidized unit in some way, shape, or form, or subsidized housing. But of course, there are also private, affordable housing, either done by nonprofits or what have you, units that are available in the city. We talked about last week that efforts between churches and nonprofits, right, to develop that in Evanston and in Chicago. And some of that housing is directed at specific people. So, for example, folks with disabilities. Some of that is just affordable housing in the sense that there's an income cap. You can only make so much money to be considered for those units. And so I think the idea of a portal that kind of shows you all those different types of units and how you might find them and what kinds of wait lists or just like what the availability of that. I mean, it certainly sounds attractive. And I think according to Corley's story, it seems like that they are partnering on the technical side, some kind of template that basically already exists, that like once the legislation is passed, like it shouldn't take them too long to get it online. I will say this is a bit different from, I know we've also talked about like rental registries that would have like a registry of every single rental property in the city. It's not quite, as I understand, it's not quite that comprehensive, but I do think it's an important step of just to visibly have, whether it's public agencies that are, doing this housing, Department of Housing or CHA or what have you, or nonprofits, private entities that are responsible for this, having it all in one place does seem like a massive improvement from the current system.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the already existing interface comes from the Illinois Housing Development Authority. And this housing portal already has 3,700 affordable units. So imagine once we stretch that to including, more Chicago apartments, it would make such a big difference for families, for individuals who are trying to find something in Chicago. I love when you find, like, even like affordable housing aside, like we all have kind of our favorite ways to look for apartments, and I know right now you're in the midst of an
Oh yeah.
apartment search. I feel so lucky that I have the time and the resources. I have friends who are experts at this, who are realtors, or they have so much, we just, for so many years we've all moved around so much that I feel really lucky that I have this area of knowledge where I know what places to go, or what, whether that's the Facebook neighborhood group, or whether that's Craigslist, or, Zillow, whatever it be. And so I really do hope that city council, especially with all this pretty recent news coming from CHA when it comes to people looking for relocation, I hope that kind of highlighting the issues that we've already known have existed through CHA. I hope that this really pushes this ordinance in city council, and so we can have some more transparency when it comes to Chicagoans looking for reliable and affordable housing.
The weather is finally warming up, and maybe you like me and you dreaming about getting away, right? Maybe getting outside your comfort zone, taking a break, relaxing by some water, seeing something brand new. But what if I told you you ain't gotta go quite as far as you think to accomplish all of that? That's because Illinois is literally in the middle of everything. We can get out in nature in breathtaking state parks and an epic national forest for hiking, biking, all around adventuring, or explore Illinois' small town charm, or visit some of the state historical sites like Lincoln's Crib, or maybe embark on the ideal road trip celebrating 100 years of Route 66 with giant attractions along the 300-mile route. Or maybe we just go ahead and kick back in Chicago. Finally take in the lakefront, the museums, the shows we promised ourselves we're gonna do all year and never get around to. However you're looking to get away, even if you stay at home, find just what you're looking for and a little more at enjoyillinois.com. The Newberry Library is excited for their ongoing commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. They want you to stop by and visit their brand new exhibition, Free and Independent, which includes a July 1776 broadside copy of the Declaration and a handwritten manuscript of the Federalist No. 3. Then you can stop by the reading rooms to view Jefferson's annotated copy of the Federalist and Washington's diary. On June 6, scholars Danielle Allen and Scott Stevenson will appear at the Newberry in an hour-long conversation to discuss Allen's brand new book, Our Declaration, a reading of the Declaration of Independence in defense of equality, and take a deep dive into the history, impact, and contemporary resonance of the document. As always, exhibitions and programs at the Newberry are free and open to all. Learn more at www.newberry.org.
So, on a story that is almost a little bit related, this is a story about libraries. We know Chicago has 81 public libraries and 77 community areas. And Michelle, I definitely assumed that every community area had at least one library by those numbers, but there are actually 8 that don't. And there's one neighborhood that's looking to change that. Michelle, who is it and what are they trying to do?
Yeah, so the Avondale Neighborhood Association launched a petition and got 800 signatures in less than a week. I was also just as surprised as you, Simone. I would always assume that every single neighborhood would have its library, especially because the branches are usually take on the name of the neighborhood. And so I was really surprised by this, but this push for the library started by a neighborhood group and the Avondale Gardening Alliance, which they've they've led requests to the city to open an Avondale library branch since 2021. In 2022, community leaders kind of pitched the idea of an affordable housing development that would include a library to redevelop the Belmont Triangle. The Department of Planning and Development was involved in the effort. There was community engagement, but there was no formal proposal that was submitted. Now, the city isn't looking to redevelop the land because it's privately owned, and so it's kind of just up for sale and kind of being marketed as a commercial redevelopment opportunity. But they wanted to be similar to the Independence branch in Irving Park, which opened back in 2019. I haven't visited myself, but I know our host, Jacoby Cochran, he's been going around. He's on this mission to go to every single library branch in Chicago. And even through his videos, I'm learning so much about what different branches offer. I mean, there's ones with food pantries, there's ones with, hyper focused services that go outside of what you think a normal public library would do. And so it's really cool to see like the Independence branch in Irving Park be able to use, they're one of 3 branches where, they can have this partnership between Chicago Housing Authority and of course Chicago Public Library to have like this mixed use building and to, provide the services as a library does, but then also have affordable housing with that.
Yeah, you can check out the videos that Jacoby is doing if you follow us on Instagram. That's at CityCast Chicago. Very cool. And I'm very excited to see the videos that he does around some of these branches that do include affordable housing. So, you mentioned the Independence Library branch. I think also in Little Italy, there's one, Northtown in West Ridge. And I think Altgeld Gardens also has combo there. And that's so interesting because I had no idea, number one, that there were these sort of mixed development projects that involved libraries. I think that's great. Like I have been thinking about that a lot because I know there's a library opening right as part of the Obama Center, right? There's going to be a library branch in there, and sort of the ways there, I guess like so many of the libraries that I have been to in Chicago have just been kind of classic or even like historic, right? They're really old. I didn't realize how many new libraries we had in Chicago. But the Independence branch opened in 2019. A lot of these sort of like mixed development ones opened during the Emanuel administration. And basically it was like one of the last big grants out of the Obama era, housing and urban department. I am so curious to learn more about kind of how that has gone since that has opened. And Avondale does seem like the place that is kind of ripe for it, right? Like it is sort of now getting that spillover gentrification from Logan Square, right? It's starting to kind of become that new hip neighborhood where people are moving to. Folks are kind of getting placed into, voted coolest neighborhood in the world, right? By, what was it, Time Out?
By Time Out. The Chicago neighborhood was named one of the coolest.
Yeah. And like
in the world.
Yeah. And so like, I do think there is and I know that particular redevelopment, that particular plot, I think neighbors have wanted something there that is really kind of geared toward the neighborhood and not, necessarily contributing to gentrification there. And yeah, I will be curious to see if this petition manages to go anywhere where previous proposals maybe weren't able to. And yeah, again, just totally surprised. Again, if you had told me to guess which of the 8 neighborhoods didn't have a library, I would not have guessed Avondale. I definitely wouldn't have guessed Avondale, which I don't know what that says about me, but yeah.
No, same. I honestly wouldn't have also picked, or like I wouldn't have guessed Avondale. Their alderperson, Ruth Cruz, has been calling for the library too. And like you said, they're looking at this specific plot, but they're also kind of looking at other options in the neighborhood to see, okay, if we can't buy this privately owned plot, maybe there's somewhere else in the neighborhood. We don't need to explain to people why libraries are so essential to communities. But I just thinking about how
if you listen to this podcast, you use your library card. Like, you know.
Yeah, you know how much we ride for our libraries here. I just think adding a library to the neighborhood will only benefit, everyone around them. And so everyone should be able to walk to a library or a quick bus ride to a library.
This is a tangent, but a hack I want to try is I saw this video on Instagram where they were like, oh, I managed to get a cheaper flight by booking it from a library computer. And now
I saw that too.
I want to try it. I can neither confirm nor deny if it works, but I would like to try it.
I 100% believe it though, because even when I've like done stuff with VPNs and like when you look at things on different computers, like it really does, it really does change the way that you're getting priced things. Like I mean, and this is like not a conspiracy theory. Like I'm sure people have admitted like to targeted pricing. And so, yeah, I also saw that and I sent it to all my friends. And I think for my next trip, I will also be booking my flight at a Chicago
We
public library.
we could partner with a library, do a flight booking party.
Yes, actually, though, that sounds like a program that they would have. And then it's nice because I get a lot of anxiety. I've booked so many flights for me and my family, but I still get this anxiety, even though I know I have like 24 hours
when you
to
press
like rebook.
pay, when you put in your
Yes.
info, and you're just like, yeah,
I triple
definitely
check
feel that.
everything. Make sure it's the right date, the right year, the right flight, the right
Yep.
time. I'm like, oh, it would be so nice to have a little flight booking group, and then we all pass our laptops and everyone makes sure that everything's okay. Like, actually, I would still go to that.
I feel like the coverage of Chicago's piping plover mating season kind of reads like a reality show almost. Like I'm reading WTTW's coverage, and it is so funny to me. But tell us, what's the latest with these little shorebirds?
Yes. So the piping plovers have laid their eggs. They're at their nest. This is the third year for Imani and Sea Rocket, and they are expecting parents at Montrose. Then there's also Pimpin. Wait, I didn't understand what they meant by this. Is no longer an also ran? Like, what does that mean?
So this was the line. This was the line from the WTTW story about Pippin, who's been the third wheel male who has been trying to mate. He's been trying to steal some girls, is what he's trying to do. He's out here trying to like be with some of the other female.
He's on the streets.
Plovers.
He's trying.
Yes, he's out here. And it seems, but the past couple years, he has failed. He has not managed to sire eggs.
To pull some other plovers.
Exactly. But that's changed. In Waukegan now, he has managed to woo female Blaze away from her previous partner, Pepper. So it's spicy out here in Plover land.
I remember
Pippin's
Pepper.
out here. Yes. And Pippin's only got one leg. He's only got 1 foot. That was the whole thing. It was a struggle for him, is just struggling as a little plover, but now he's a father to be. It's deeply, I love this. I love the drama of it all. I don't know. I'm here for the love lives of these teeny tiny little birds that you can barely see in the sand if you do go out there. Like they're tough to spot, but adorable nonetheless.
And before you go judging Blaze for leaving her previous partner, it's very common for piping plovers to, test the waters, try some different stuff out. God forbid a plover wants a different taste of some other life. I'm happy for them both. Good for Blaze finding some love with Pimpin, and good for I love the underdog, the under plover, and so I'm glad he found some love too. I think it's hilarious though that he had to go to Waukegan, or is he from Waukegan?
I think they all kind of hang out in both Waukegan and Montrose. They've kind of been, except Imani and Sea Rocket have been at Montrose, but like Pippin has hung out in both places, I think. And this is all stems from the saga of Monty and Rose, the original piping plover fanatics, some of the first plovers to nest at Montrose Beach, I think, in decades, right? It was this huge, like, good news story for conservation. And now we're like a few generations out.
I used to have this phase when I was younger. I was obsessed with Animal Planet. And this definitely could be a reality TV show. Like, I remember watching Meerkat Manor, and the whole thing was just, you're just watching meerkats, and it's just like this guy in a British accent describing what's going on. And I feel like we could have the same thing here. Like, I feel like the piping plovers have that energy to be reality TV stars. Now, this year's nesting season came a little later than usual because of the, cooler temperatures, but hatching is expected in 25 to 28 days, and they can lay up to 4 eggs. So some new characters might come from this, and I'm excited. Who names them?
I believe I think there's often a contest, but I think it's like the Chicago piping plovers. It's a group of monitors. We talked to them a few years ago when Monty and Rose were still around. They are a pretty dedicated group of people that are out here watching these plovers. Of course, during this season where they are watching their eggs, this is like the time to leave the plovers alone. Like maybe don't go mob
Yes.
Montrose Beach to try to go take a look. Last year, Imani and Sea Rocket lost a couple eggs. They lost some hatchlings. And so obviously I think folks are watching very closely to see what happens this year. And the other thing that's interesting too is like there's no guarantee that their progeny are going to come back to Montrose or even to Waukegan. We have seen it happen a couple times as the generations have continued. And I don't know. I guess that's like there are so many things in Chicago that are like multi-generational, closures where it's like a business that, is run by someone's grandfather and then their father and then them and then they couldn't keep it open or whatever. There wasn't another generation. And like I love that we're kind of at the beginning of a generational dynasty. Another one here in Chicago. and it's birds. I'm here for it. I have some binoculars. I don't like go out birding, but one time there was a red-tailed hawk in my tree and I spent like 20 minutes sitting on my couch with my binoculars, just watching it, just like hanging out and doing its thing. Like, I don't know, man, it really scratches an itch. I don't know what it is.
No, and I asked you this earlier, like, is birding becoming more of a well-known hobby, or am I just entering the age where that stage where just you just automatically become more interested in birding? Because I'm the same. There's this great blue heron that lives in the McKinley Park Lagoon area, and I became obsessed with it last summer. And so I don't have binoculars, but I really need some because I love looking at birds. I love spending time outside.
I know when we went bird watching with neighbors last fall, with CityCast Chicago neighbors with the Field Museum, I had my binoculars, and it was so cool. Like, I don't know. I don't know, Michelle. I do feel like it's getting cooler. I really do. I do think it's like becoming a more hip thing to do. Because I feel like, I don't know, people are trying to like get outside. They're trying to meet people in real life, trying to get off the screens. But yeah, I also think I think in Chicago, it's so nice because like we're in the path for migrating birds. So you can see so many cool birds without having to like hike up a mountain or whatever, or drive like, a couple hours out of town. Like it's pretty easy to go down to the lake or just like go to the park and, look up and just listen for some interesting bird calls and try to take a look.
Birding is in, guys. Birding is in. Don't hold back. Look for your binoculars. Spend some time outside, touch some grass, look at the sky, because why not? And like with these piping plover news, like again, don't mess with the piping plovers, because like they said, they need their private time. They're asking for privacy, especially during this really important time of their nesting and making sure that their hatchlings are all good and ready to go. So leave the piping plovers alone, but there's plenty of birds to gander at in Chicago.
Ha! Gander! Ah, that was a good one.
Yeah, you got it.
I want to thank our creative producer, Michelle Navarro, for joining us today. Michelle, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Simone.
Up next, we have a segment just for our CityCast Chicago neighbors. Every week, the team gives members a behind-the-scenes chat, but you can only listen if you join at membership.citycast.fm/Chicago. And I think you're going to want to sign up after hearing this hook, because what our neighbors need to know is that before we press record, Michelle told us a story about a high school classmate who stole something on a field trip, and then Michelle proceeded to call her out by her full first and last name. And whether you're a member or not, we're always going to let you go with some good news. And of course, following a very fun Crosstown Classic where the Sox emerged victorious, I want to let you know that we have some bobblehead nights coming up. You can get a Ryan Sandberg bobblehead at Wrigley on Sunday. And then the next day at Sox Park, you can celebrate Memorial Day with a Chase Mydroth bobblehead. You can find links to those games and many other events over the holiday weekend at our events page at chicago.citycast.fm. And of course, some more good news. Jacoby will be back in the host chair tomorrow. So we'll talk to you then.